What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 10-7 MMA Show with me, Huzefa, and your boy, Justin Guitar Hero James. Justin is rocking the Lions shirt, first of all. Second of all, you are in Montana, and what are you doing there this weekend?
Back to Bozeman, Montana. We got Fusion Fight League, another Fusion Fight League fight, man. So I come out here, get a little training in, and get to commentate these fights, man. Get to sit cage side, and hopefully in June we'll have you out. I'll be talking to the
Yeah.
promoter again, reminding him you might be solo, man. You might be. I won't be there because I'm not looking to fight on that card anymore. My opponent
Mhm.
is already claiming injury. I'd expect more out of a Bellator vet, bare knuckle vet, but he hit me up on Instagram. He's like, "Oh, I hurt my ribs." It's like, dude, the fight's in June, bro. Like, what?
Mm.
So I think he's
Mm.
just looking for a way out of his hometown. But yeah, if I'm not going to be there, I hope that you can make it and you'll be doing the commentating for me.
That would be such a blast. As I mentioned before, I just think that would be so much fun. So hopefully that comes to fruition, and we'll take it from there. All right. Now we got a bunch of topics on the list today for the show. By the way, thank you everybody for the continued support. Thank you for the engagement. The show is growing. I think we're now at 230 subscribers. A little steady progress, but we're excited about all of it. Each and every subscriber that joins and comes to the show, we're very excited. You comment and leave any comments, and we'll respond to everything. So rest assured on that front. But before we jump into the topics, I did want to say on my drive today, I had a long drive. I listened to the Joe Rogan Experience with Guess Who, right? Today is April 26th. It just dropped right now. Max Holloway was the guest. So I want to just tell you a couple things that I heard on this episode that was amazing. So one of the things that Joe asked him, I remember we were kind of talking about potential fantasy matchups for Max or where we see his career going up until maybe, retirement, whenever that may be. We talked about going up against Ilya, which he said he's definitely going to do, but he did say on the show, he's like, I'd be a fool not to think about fighting Connor. He's like, but we don't know what's going to happen, whether he's going to win, whether he's going to lose, et cetera. So we don't know if that's going to be a realistic fight, but if it's there, Max wants it. But what else he said that he wants to do, this is so crazy. He wants to go back 145, fight Ilya, win the belt. And then he said he wants to move up and challenge Islam for 155. And like, he's ready to go. He's down to do it. And he was saying that, hey, yeah, I'll put up my BMF belt against the lightweight title. What do you think about that matchup?
I
You
love the
you
matchup.
mentioned that he had never been taken down before. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, he's been taken down. I think he actually got taken down by Conor McGregor actually, but it wasn't. I mean, we're
Oh
talking
yeah.
about when he was 20 years old. It was off. It was like he threw a kick and Conor caught it. But again, this guy has advanced his game so much. I can't remember ever him being taken down. And I think he has such good range and such good boxing. Islam's going to try to close the distance on him, man. I think it's a better match. I think it's a great matchup, and it's a guy that can beat Islam too, especially with that extra weight he's put on his frame, man. I mean, you saw him against Justin Gaethje. Not that how if you can put on enough weight to sleep Justin Gaethje like that after an all-out war, man. I mean, he could be a problem for Islam, to be honest.
So bringing up Justin Gaethje, he talked about Justin a lot actually at the beginning of the show, and it was really cool because he has a tremendous amount of respect for Gaethje, as we would expect, right? And so he talked very highly of him, but he did say a couple of things. He said, one, I wanted to ask you about this. He said, one, when he did get dropped, I think it was in the third round, he said, when he got hit and he got dropped. And he's like, that should have been a drop, by the way. He's like, I got dropped. I don't know why they didn't count it as a drop or a knockdown. But he's like, I definitely got dropped. But he's like, man, that guy hits so hard. And he's like, there's something in his bones. He said it was almost like titanium or something like that. And I don't know if you remember me saying this, but Justin Gaethje apparently had a scan, and he said his bones were the densest or second densest in the entire UFC. So there's confirmation from Max and from Justin that there's something different about Justin, and maybe that's part of the key to why people say he hit so hard. But the second thing that was mentioned was Justin's calf kicks, but in particular, that he's able to throw effective calf and leg kicks in the clinch. Is this something that you've noticed, that Justin has a special ability in terms of his hip flexibility to be able to throw effective low leg kicks in the clinch?
I don't think it's a special attribute or anything. I think it's just something he practices. I don't think it has anything to do with mobility. I think it's just a technique that he's good at, that he practices. Then he shows over and over again that he can do this technique. It doesn't matter his range. He can be elbow to elbow. He can throw that leg kick. Again, a lot of fighters don't want to throw that low line kick because traditionally when you throw that low line kick, you turn your hips, you drop your hands, especially
Mm.
In fighting. That's why you typically kick at range. But guys like Mads Burnell, Justin
Mm.
Gaethje have enough power in their legs to where they don't have to turn their hip over and they can still create a lot of damage. So to answer your question, I don't think it's like a genetic gift or any gift from flexibility. I think it's just a technique that he practices. Like I said, Mads Burnell, he's in the PFL right now. He has a very similar style leg kick. He gets in there and bangs on your body, and then when you're covering your body, he's going to finish off with a leg kick. It's a technique that I really appreciate, and I love seeing these guys display it when they fight.
Super cool. And Alex Pereira, another guy who doesn't turn his hip over. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but doesn't really turn his hip over when he throws those kicks, even roundhouses and the low leg kicks. Again, something innate about him, which doesn't give a tell. That's what I've heard a lot of analysts say. But he might be somebody that also has that power. Maybe just practices it, so much that he's gotten good at it. But anyways, let's move on because there's some cool stuff happening this weekend. It's actually happening in Los Angeles. Mike Perry's coming back to BKFC. But this fight, by the way, I watched some of the press conference last night. It's so funny. But Mike Perry's fighting. He's not fighting an MMA guy this time. He's fighting a former bare knuckle champ. And they were going back and forth and talking smack. So you probably haven't. I'm guessing you probably haven't heard of the guy who Mike Perry's fighting. I'm just going to load it up real quick. I think his name is Alves or Alvarez.
Of course,
Here,
no.
check it
Thiago
out.
Alves
Yeah.
fought in the UFC.
Oh.
He's an old school
Oh.
vet, man. He's around the UFC for a long time. He fought Martin
Oh, I'm
Kampman,
so
beat him by
sorry.
guillotine. He's a very, very high level kickboxer.
Oh, but correct me if I'm wrong. He's also a former BKFC champ. Is that correct?
That I can't confirm. I know he has fought in the BKFC. I don't know if he was a champion. I would expect him. When you look at him, he looks like a bare knuckle fighter, man, and he's known for being powerful with his powerful kicks and his powerful striking. But yeah, this is a great matchup, dude. Thiago Alves, I haven't seen him around in a long time. So when I saw this matchup, this is
Right.
incredible. And a win here for Mike Perry will solidify him as the top two greatest bare knuckle fighters of all time.
Okay, so yeah, I am totally wrong about this. I thought he was a BKFC. He is a BKFC world champion. He was the inaugural bare knuckle boxing champion. But you're right, he's had many fights. So that's my bad, guys. He is a vet of the UFC. He's had many fights. His last two fights he did lose. That was to Tim Means and Laureano Staropoli. But yeah, he's coming back to BKFC, I guess, to fight Mike Perry. It's going to be an unbelievable fight. And the smack talking was pretty funny in the press conference. It definitely hyped me up. I won't be able to probably see it live, but that's going to be super exciting. What do you think? Do you have a prediction here with these two going against each other? What do you think would be ideal for BKFC as an organization in terms of who to win?
Mike Perry, man. Mike Perry is scorching hot right now. Like I said, this solidifies him as the best bare knuckle fighter, especially his weight class. Now you got Lorenzo Hunt at heavyweight. Now to me, those are the two, and I go on Instagram about it a lot. Lorenzo Hunt, Mike Perry, the two best bare knuckle fighters of all time, man. These guys are savages. Lorenzo Hunt, I believe he's the 85-pound champ, the 205-pound champ, and now he's going up to heavyweight to win the heavyweight championship. Then you got Mike Perry on the other side, man. This guy is just a savage. He's beaten UFC champions, he's beaten Eddie Alvarez, he's beaten Chad Mendez. Who else has he beat? Did he wait? He might not have fought Chad Mendez. I can't. No, but he beat Eddie.
No, he did.
Alvarez.
He did. He fought Mendez. Let me double check here. I'm gonna
And he
look it
fought
up right now. I'm pretty
Julian
sure he did.
Lane. And I mean, this guy,
Yes.
he fought, who's the 70-pounder that just got pushed to the UFC, Michael Venom Page. Like, this guy is just a knockout machine. This guy was built for bare knuckle. And I tell you what, a lot of people don't like the way he talks. They say he's arrogant. Dude, I've met Mike a couple times. He's from Michigan. This guy is a really, really nice guy, man. You put a mic in front of him, he's going to sell the fight. But even more, he's going to make his opponents bleed. And that's what really entertains me for bare knuckle.
Okay, I just realized I made a mistake. So Chad Mendez fought Eddie Alvarez. He didn't fight Mike
that's
Perry,
right,
but
yeah.
he fought Julian Lane, Michael Venom Page, which is crazy. Luke Rockhold and Eddie Alvarez, insane.
I mean,
So
Luke
yeah, this is
Rockhold,
gonna be
former champion. Like that's
yeah.
who's the last guy? Did you say he fought Eddie, right?
Eddie Alvarez, and he won.
fought
That was
Eddie.
a crazy fight too.
Dude,
Eddie was doing amazing the first round.
Eddie's tough, man. I mean, this bare knuckle fighting is a different animal, dude, and it's just different, dude. So there's two UFC champions that he's knocked off. You got Michael Venom Page that just made an incredible debut in the UFC against Kevin Holland. You got Julian Lane, world famous for "I'm here to bang, bro. I'm here to bang." This guy throws leather like this. I mean, his resume is pretty awesome.
Yeah, right on. Okay, so this is gonna be a really really cool event. Like I said, going down in LA tomorrow. Make sure to check that out. Okay, UFC 301 next week in Brazil. And one fight that I really want to talk to you about was the return of Jose Aldo. I don't know if a lot of people saw this as even possibly happening. Jose Aldo, 37 years old. I mean, he's still very young if you think about how long he's been around, how many fights he's had, and he's going up against a gentleman named Jonathan Martinez. So Jonathan Martinez is definitely a super hot prospect. He's won his last 6 fights in a row, all in the UFC. Let's see, Ziviad. Alejandro Perez, Vince Morales, Cub Swanson, Saeed Nurmagomedov. Anybody with the Nurmagomedov last name is crazy. Adrian Yanez. All right, so he's got a pretty solid resume. What do you think about this matchup?
I don't know the guy very much. Obviously, he's a prospect. He's on a 6-fight win streak. But how can anybody root against Jose Aldo in Brazil? This is he's being served up. I'm not talking about his opponent wise, but I'm talking about setup wise. This is the holy grail for a retirement fight. If he goes out there and beats this kid on a 6-fight win streak in Brazil, that stadium is going to go crazy. You know, he's gonna jump over the cage. He's gonna run into the crowd. Everyone's gonna be like, this is being set up for pandemonium, man. And this would be a great spot where Jose Aldo knocks off this young kid, says, "Hey, look, I still got it." Takes his gloves off, set him down in Brazil. That's what I want to see happen. I want to see Jose Aldo go out there, be the Jose Aldo that we all know, the Jose Aldo in the WC, the Jose Aldo, as the UFC champion. The guy's a freaking savage. He deserves everything he gets. He's entertained us for so long, and most of the people watching the stream don't even know what the WEC is, man. And it was the UFC basically before the UFC bought the WC, man. That's when they had all the lightweights. And Jose Aldo, again, WC champ. Talk to Uriah Faber about Jose Aldo. Like, we want to talk about, if you ever seen Uriah Faber versus Jose Aldo in WC?
Yeah, yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen that fight long time ago.
We're talking about the most devastating leg kicks in the game at the time. He was doing leg kicks before everybody knew they were cool. This is a very nostalgic fight for me. Jose Aldo was fighting for WC when I was in high school, and then he became the UFC champ. Unfortunately, he got knocked out by Conor McGregor, made quick work of him, kind of ended his reign. But that doesn't take away from who he is as a fighter and what he's given to the sport. I want Jose Aldo to go in there, be the Jose Aldo of old, come in there, get the victory, and retire in Brazil.
All right, I'm just going to look up how many UFC championship defenses he had because he had a ton. All right, let me look here. Oh my God! So all right, and I believe when he came into the UFC, my recollection is it's almost like they created the division and he was the default champ. That was my recollection. And
I thought he
then
fought somebody for the UFC belt, but I could be wrong too.
maybe okay. So WEC. Okay, hold on. So these are WC, UFC. Defended, yeah, I think right off the bat, because his first fight in the UFC was a defense of the UFC featherweight title. So he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 title defenses, and then he lost it to Conor. Holy smokes, that's wild, dude. People need to give way more credit to Jose Aldo. I mean, you do obviously, and I'm sure fighters do, but that's insane. 7 title defenses.
Like,
Who's
people
done
don't
that lately?
see, people don't, and that's the thing with the old and the new. When people talk about the all-time greats, it's like Jose Aldo is one of the greatest featherweights of all time. Oh, well, he got knocked out by Conor McGregor. I mean, all fighters eventually go out on their shield, excluding Khabib. Or Habib, what did he defend his title like once or twice or three? No more than 3 times. George St. Pierre had a
3
great
times, yeah.
title run 3 times. Like, that's not even half of what Jose Aldo did. And that's UFC.
Yeah.
That's not talking about the WEC, which when he was in the WEC, that was the UFC. It was just under a different banner. And then you got
Right.
Anderson Silva. People, he sucks. He lost to Chris Weidman twice. He lost to Michael Bisping. Like, dude, this guy had like 12 title defenses. What do you mean? What are you talking about? Like, I
Yeah.
wish these new fans would give these old guys credit, the guys that I grew up watching, the guys that I looked up to, that are still competing now, that had incredible reign back in the day. And obviously, time caught up with them all. Damage caught up with them all. But these guys are gangsters.
Right.
These guys are, in my opinion, a lot better than the current, than like the nowadays UFC champ. Because here's the thing. The new in the UFC back in the day is, all right, I'm the 145-pound champ. I'm going to fight every single guy that thinks that he can be until I lose. And that's what Jose did. Now, guys win the belt. They don't even defend it. They change weight classes, trying to win another belt. Then they lose a different weight class. Then they come back. Like, it's like, dude, man, Jose Aldo. I think there should be a minimum of fights you have at that weight class, a minimum of defenses before you go to another weight class. You need 3 title defenses before you can talk about trying to be a double champ. I think that, because that's all anybody's trying to do now. They're trying to win the belt and then just change weight classes and win another belt, trying to find another matchup. Look at Pereira, man. Like, did he defend the belt? What, he defended it once or twice? Like, and now he's going up, then he loses and he goes up. And now, he's talking about going to heavyweight after winning the 205. Man, you look back at these old school gangsters. I'm the best featherweight in the division, and I'm going to show it time and time again. And, I wish the UFC would get back to doing that a little bit more, instead of, Conor's the double champ and Conor wants 3 belts. Now Pereira wants 3 belts. And Volkanovski, he defended the belt a bunch of times against Max Holloway,
Right.
3 times against
Right.
Max Holloway. He won it against him and then defended it twice. Now, okay, he's earned his spot to go up and try to get other gold. But all these other guys that win the belt, man, take a lesson from the real vets, from the true gangsters in the sport. Jose Aldo, Anderson Silva. Control your weight class and dominate it for as long as you can.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point in terms of maybe having some sort of requirement before you move up. There's some other commentators that have talked about the fact that, like, one of the reasons why so many fighters, you tell me if you agree with this, why so many fighters do want to go up. It's almost like a free fight while retaining the belt, because you go up and you lose, you can just come right back down, maintain your title, and still have another shot. So it's almost like a freebie in a way. That might be part of the attraction, I think, to a lot of fighters. But yeah, I think 100%. Stay in your division, defend it, at least 3 title defenses. Who am I to say, right? I'm just a fan, but I think that makes a lot of sense in terms of from an equity standpoint too. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Man, Jose Aldo, that return, such an exciting fight. Can't wait to see him. Old school vet, and still probably as terrifying as ever. All right, moving on. In fact, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump ahead to topic 4. We're going to come back to topic 3, because speaking of vets, I want to talk about Anthony Smith. And the reason why I want to talk about this in particular is because I listened to a really great interview of him last night talking about this upcoming fight, why he took it in particular. So Anthony Smith, vet, tough as nails, been around for a long time, amazing commentator, one of my favorite people to listen to. His analysis is incredible. And he was saying that the reason why he took this fight at 301 is because he feels like, Khalil Roundtree, he took that short-nosed fight, got beat, right? Other prospects seem to be calling him out so they can make a name for themselves on his back. And he said, I'm putting an end to all of that. I'm fighting an up-and-comer, and I'm putting an end to it in Brazil. I'm not going to be used like that anymore. Okay, wanted to turn it over to you. What are your thoughts on that mindset going into this fight? How do you see him doing?
Man, I actually have no opinion on this, dude. I'm a big Anthony Smith fan, but man, the injuries he's had to endure and the recovery he's had to come after, and the lack of great performances going against a up and coming vet, and if his opponent's in Brazil, he's going to hostile territory. I feel like the UFC is setting him up, and as much as I can appreciate the mindset of Anthony Smith, and again, I'm an Anthony Smith fan. I think he's awesome. Like, I don't, when I talk about these fighters, that's why I want to skip over one of the topics you brought to me today, is because I don't want them to take it the wrong way. I'm not throwing shade at them. They're awesome, man. They've done so much more than I ever have, in my career. But at the end of the day, age catches up to us, injuries catch up to us, and Anthony Smith probably still feels that he can compete. But his last couple performances they've been lackluster, man. And I get the injuries, dude. And man, I wish him the best, and I hope he's on track. And I would love for Anthony Smith to go to Brazil and fight a Brazil. Is he fighting a Brazilian?
Yeah, he Vitor Petrino, I believe he is Brazilian. Let me double check.
If his name is Vitor, he probably is. But
Right,
he's going he's going to Brazil in a hostile crowd with all odds against him, man. And I wish him the best, and I want him to win, and I'm probably going to choose him to win because that's who I want to win. And I want Anthony Smith to win, but can his body hold together? Can his mind hold together, knowing his body's falling apart? And that's my biggest thing personally, is I can relate because, going through neck surgery, going through nose surgery, going through hand surgery, it's like I question myself a lot. Is my neck I was in a guillotine not just on Monday, and I'm going against this guy that doesn't speak English. He's not Brazilian. He was Spanish. He didn't speak English, and he's cranking. And in my head, I'm not being choked, but it's definitely not comfortable. And I'm thinking to myself, it's like, man, should I tap here? Like, is this where's my threshold of when this plate in my neck breaks? Like, this is a very uncomfortable
Mm,
situation. So, if he ended up tying up being saved by the buzzer, but again, where's his mindset at? If he gets put in a position, is he going to be able to mentally be like, all right, hey, I think he had some bad knee injuries. Are my knees going to be okay? Are my knees going to hold up? Are they going to be able to hold up for wrestling? Are they going to be able to hold up for grappling? These are all the questions that are going to be answered come fight night.
right. In looking at his age, and I know you say that you do consider this to be kind of old. I'm 43, about to turn 44 soon. Anthony Smith's only 35, but I know he's had a lot of fights and he's had a lot of wars. So I get that the mileage could definitely add up. And he's fighting somebody who's undefeated, 11-0. I think 7-0 in the UFC. So it's definitely and he might be getting set up, right? Maybe they want to build this new Brazilian up and comer. It is what it is. But I love the mindset of Anthony Smith. I love that he's going in to shut that down. He's taking that intentionally. And he said, he's taking it in hostile territory, but he said he's doing that intentionally because he's never won a fight in Brazil. He's had 2 fights and he's lost both of them. So he wants to get a victory in Brazil. Yeah, big fan, and I think that I don't know, I'm rooting for him. So I guess we'll see how it goes. By the way, showing Celine's comment right here. She says we're early. You guys haven't gotten me used to that, so she missed the first couple minutes. But thank you, Celine, for joining. As always, really appreciate it. Okay, let's move it along. We're gonna go back to topic 3. Colby Covington is ducking Ian Garry. So there's another YouTuber named MMA Joey, and he did a video yesterday talking about Colby Covington ducking Ian Garry. So he makes a pretty interesting argument. He's like, what other fight is there for Colby at this point? Colby is trying to angle, I guess, still for the Wonder Boy fight. He did talk about Ian Garry not too long ago, but then he made all those weird stipulations, like his wife has to stand next to him during weigh-ins. I don't know, like just stuff that obviously Ian Garry would never agree to. And Ian Garry keeps calling him out. He's like, hey, we picked the date. I think they were even potentially teeing it up for June 29th, same card as Connor. And he's like, I'm ready to go. Colby has not signed the contract. I don't know. It's crazy. Like, what do you make of this? It does seem to be that Colby is ducking Ian Garry probably because he does think it's a dangerous matchup. First of all, are you still interested in this fight? And 2, yeah, what do you think? Do you think Colby is indeed ducking Ian Garry?
I'm very interested in this fight. I want to see Colby get his ass knocked out by Ian Garry. And yes, absolutely, Colby is ducking Ian Garry. If you're Colby Covington, would you fight Ian Garry? Like,
No way.
of course
Yeah.
not, dude. You're you're an old school one-dimensional wrestler grappler. Ian Garry is that new hybrid fighter. His striking is dynamic. It's fast. He can defend your takedowns. I mean, and he's, oh, I got my toe broken in the first round or the second round when I threw it. Like, dude, I'm so sick. I used to like Colby Covington. I don't know him as a person, but I used to be entertained by his WWE antics. And it kind of was like a Conor McGregor. I didn't like Conor because of his antics at first, but then he kept saying, all right, I'm going to call my shot. I'm going to knock him out in the first round. I'm going to knock him out in the second round. And he did over and over and over. And Colby is the Walmart version trash talker of Conor McGregor. I mean, that's the only thing you compare him to. He talks just as much, if not more trash, but he never backs it up. Like, he's like, even Chael Sonnen, like, oh, well, Chael Sonnen talked all that shit to Anderson Silva and he never backed it up. Well, let's get one thing straight. Chael Sonnen won a bunch of fights in a row to get that title shot, talked his way into the title shot after winning some fights, and then beat Anderson Silva for 4.5 rounds, more than 4.5 rounds. So, Colby, you haven't beat anybody like that. You haven't, especially, and you've had three title fights. I'm just kind of sick of Colby Covington. I think he should become a B-list fighter and go back to the regional scene, man. He's just annoying to me now. He's cringy on the mic. He's outlandish. He's offensive. And I like when guys are offensive, but I want to see him back it up. I want, like Conor McGregor, he's offensive, but what he says, hey, fuck you, and remember when he was Nate Diaz throwing the water bottles and shit? Like, I thought that was outlandish.
Yeah.
But then they come out and they put on just an incredible fight. He was very disrespectful to Jose Aldo. Goes out, knocks him out in 30 seconds. Colby Covington, I don't think has ever knocked anybody out. And he's lost a bunch of fights. I mean, he's lost a bunch. I just don't like him anymore. I just want him to get his mouth shut by Ian Garry.
And I mean, from the fan perspective, this is the perfect fight for Colby in a way. Obviously, it's a very difficult matchup, but he's got a shot, and he's going against somebody who's got a lot of hate himself. You can use that. It's kind of like when Conor fought Floyd Mayweather. That the reason why that was so, I think why it was so captivating is because nobody liked Floyd. So it was weird when Conor would bully like Jose Aldo, or when he would bully Habib, like two really lovable people. It left a weird taste in a lot of fans' mouths. Definitely mine. It was a weird. Those were weird press conferences. As entertaining as it was like, why are you doing this? But if you bully a bully, right? When he bullied Floyd Mayweather, I think people got really behind it. And the same thing could happen with this fight. I hope so much that the UFC really pushes him and really incentivizes Colby to take this fight, because fine, maybe he's on his way out. Maybe he loses that and it's a bad look. But who else is he going to fight? This fight will do huge numbers. If they compensate him correctly, it'll be amazing. And just imagine that as the co-main, or something on the main card of that Conor Chandler fight. I mean, it would just make that card insane. It would easily break 1 million pay-per-views. So let's see what happens. That would be one for the ages. And Ian Garry's pretty damn good on the mic, I think. As much as you want to say he's cringy, this and that, he'll give it back to Colby so hard. And Colby's kind of has his stuff like scripted out, right? Like he's usually, I don't know if he's probably never admit that, but like he usually seems to kind of have it pre set up of what he's going to say, this and that. Ian Garry's going to be off the cuff, and I think he's going to come out on the winning side in the verbal exchanges. So let's see what happens there. All right. Last thing I wanted to touch on for us today, I want to go back to talking about Alex Pereira. He's had an incredible run in the UFC thus far. We went back and looked at like his 5 last wins were all against current or former champs. I mean, that's insane. And he's so young in the game. I know he's like 36, but young in the game in terms of mixed martial arts. The reason why I want to bring this up is I want to get your thoughts. Anthony Smith talked about him in that same interview where he talked about his returning fight and all that stuff. And he did mention, he said, look, I'm not trying to throw shade at Alex Pereira. What he's done has been amazing. But you've got to admit that the fights that have been given to him thus far are quite favorable for whatever reason it is. Like, obviously, he's showing up and he's doing his thing. But he's amazing at one thing, which is striking, and maybe, specifically countering and his left hook and all that. He's really, really good at that one thing, and then everything else he's kind of mediocre, if not less than mediocre, right, in terms of grappling, defending takedowns, whatnot. And so he still seems to be not super impressed with Alex, I think, in terms of his ability to go on a extended run and really be super dominant the way he appears to be. I want to turn it over to you and get your thoughts. I mean, are these sentiments that you share, or do you feel differently? Do you feel like, hey, Alex is actually very well-rounded. The reason why he hasn't been taken down and why he beat Jan Blachowicz and things like that was because he actually has developed good defensive skills when it comes to grappling. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it sounds like whoever you listened to heard our show from last week, because we talked about this. And I do feel that Alex has been giving favorable matchups, and again, Adesanya, striking matchup. Strawn Strickland, striking matchup. Yuri, striking matchup. Who did he just fight? Jamal Hill said he's going to stand with him and bang. Like, I do feel that he has been given favorable kickboxing matches. And I think it's smart for the UFC to do that. They've been able to build him. They've been able to not only build him, but get highlight reel finishes out of him, to build his brand. And I think that's huge. And you look at a casual fan, nobody wants to see grappling, or I shouldn't say nobody. A lot of people don't want to see the grappling. They want to see these big banging knockouts. So I think it's a great business decision for what the UFC is doing. But yes, I do agree. I do think that he has been set up for success. I do think he has been. And when I say set up for success, I mean set up against other kickboxers. Not saying the UFC doesn't have any great kickboxers, but the great kickboxers are MMA fighters. Alex Pereira is a kickboxer transitioning to MMA. Those are MMA fighters playing into Alex's game of kickboxing. So I think it's been an exciting run. I think it was a calculated plan by Dana White if he could get by Adesanya, because they're giving him the best kickboxers. It's not like they're giving him slouch kickboxers. They're giving him the best. Right. But the difference, it's just like, an NCAA world champion, going against the UFC world champion, but it's wrestling. It's just going to be different, man. And it's like, Bo Nickel can come in there and probably out folk style and freestyle 99% of the roster, but he can't beat 99% of the roster. And that's where Alex Pereira is having success. He can beat 99% of the roster in kickboxing, so the UFC keeps feeding him kickboxers.
Now, when we talk about his next potential matchup, let's say against Ankalaev, you know, where do you see that going? But you know, they gave him that black belt, that jiu-jitsu black belt in the ring. Is that meaningful to you, or is that give you no weight in your mind in terms of who's favored in that fight?
Oh, in that fight, oh man, I'm taking the opposition there because not only can that guy strike, he can grapple too, and he's very, very, very strong with his cage wrestling and so on and so forth. Yeah, I mean, I don't really understand why. I mean, you know what? I'm not going to dog his coach for giving him a black belt after that fight. Maybe it was a pre-planned thing, regardless of the out or regardless of how he won, he was going to get it. I'm sure that's what it was. Yeah, it was kind of strange though. Yeah, just give him a black belt after he knocked Jamal out. I thought that was weird, but again, there's probably a backstory that makes it make sense. With that being said, dude, I mean, it takes a long time to become a black belt, man. You can't, I mean, dude, I've been doing jujitsu for shit 15 years and I'm still a brown belt. So, and
What?
I'm a college wrestler. And so
Yeah.
just so it looks a little premature to me for Alex Pereira getting his black belt. Again, I've been grappling since I was 17 years old. I'm 34, so even, you know, more than 15 years. And I mean, I've dabbled in no-gi and gi, and again, I'm still a two-stripe brown belt, you know, under Dennis Davis. And he's been in the UFC for a couple of years, and he gets his black belt. I just can't imagine him putting kickboxing to the side to dedicate that much time to grappling. You know, the problem is with guys
Mm,
like Alex is guys are using it as advertising pieces now, as instructors. Like, oh, Alex Pereira is a black belt under Hazufa Kapadia, man. Oh, Hazufa Kapadia, let me look him up. You know, and now, oh fuck, well you're
mm,
his, you know, and I just think you know black belts are given out a little too easily these days, especially to high level guys, because they
I
want to be
see.
associated with that fighter, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So,
it
oh,
does
you're a
make sense.
black belt
Okay.
because when someone asks like, oh, you're a brown or you're a black belt, who are you under? That's the first thing they're gonna ask. And I'll say Dennis Davis, you know, Extreme Couture head coach Dennis Davis, and Alex Pereira. Oh, you're a black belt. Who are you under? Oh, I'm under this guy. And it could be a good guy, but now you hear his name, it's free advertisement for the rest of his life because he's never you once you get your black belt, you can't be like, oh, Josefa gave me my black belt, but I'm a black belt under Fredson now. It's not how it works. It's
Right.
now you're locked in for the rest of your life.
It seems like a potentially dangerous game to play because let's say he goes out there and he gets submitted really quickly by Ankalaev, right? Hey, like your black belt wasn't so effective
And
or
it
you know what,
happens
but
all the time. It happens all the time.
yeah. Okay, well, that's a really interesting take. 17 years, I can't believe that. That's crazy. All right, I'm definitely not trying to get a black belt in jiu-jitsu at this point. So yeah, that's crazy. But all right, well, thank you guys so much for joining. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. As always, it's a lot of fun. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to click that subscribe button and please like the video if you did enjoy what we're talking about today. We got more of this coming out every Monday and Friday, every week. We're trying to add in some additional shows as well. If you guys have additional thoughts or ideas on things we could talk about, we're like I said, we're responding to every comment. So make sure to leave those in the comment section. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you next time. Take it easy.